of our entrepreneurship. I know entrepreneurship very well because my dad was an entrepreneur. I'm from a family of entrepreneurs. He was in World War II, and when he returned from the war, just like a lot of his buddies, came back to Acadiana, decided to start his own business. And he started with a lumber yard, then he started building homes, and then he started building commercial buildings. So what you're seeing here is my dad's building. He built Ducey Hall on UL's campus. And if you look really closely, I'm very proud of this. He had this in his office. If you look in the corner, you'll see a 60s vintage truck with the name of his company, Roy Dupuy Incorporated. And so he was in business for a long time. He started in the 40s, went through the 50s and the 60s, and in the 70s he retired. And he came to me and he said, Ann, you know, I know that if I were to stay in business, I'd have to get with this computer thing. You know, it wasn't really that common for a small business to have access to computers. He did everything manually. Can you imagine, you know, what it takes to estimate a job like this? What does it take to track your costs? What does it take to decide to put more electricians on the job? All that being done manually. And he knew that was a really tough way to do it. He didn't have access to data like we do today. And so for him, you know, he was in that environment. But we don't have an excuse. You know, we have access to data. So we really need to start employing that. The other thing that's interesting about Acadiana is that wild roller coaster ride. It just doesn't stop. You know, I remember my husband and I lived away for a while and moved back to Lafayette in 1984, just in time for the plunge of oil in 1986. We both started businesses, right? And so we learned a lot of valuable lessons about staying alive and succeeding despite the state of the economy. But today we're in a different place. So we have diversified thanks to people like Lafayette Economic Development Authority, the other economic development authorities. We are much more diversified than we were back then. However, it still is a pretty significant impact on our economy and on the people. I don't know if any of you follow Don Briggs. Don Briggs writes frequently about the state of the energy industry in our parishes. And he says that if you look at oil and gas is really market driven. So it is really driven based on supply and demand. Oil is a different beast altogether. His words exactly, completely different. And why is that? Well, in the 80s, it was all about OPEC. So OPEC in the 80s, they decided to turn that spigot on, flood the market with oil, and so overnight, we experienced those price drops. Well, not only is that happening today, but now you've got something called geopolitics, which means it's more than just oil. This is a really interesting article. When I was researching to do this presentation, I found this article in Bloomberg Business. And they talk about the 5 big geopolitical risks for 2015, and this is worldwide. And oil is there. It has been for a long time, always will be. You also have the Middle East and North Africa. That's been an issue for us for a long time. Conflict, what happened in Paris yesterday, that really affects the economy in a global way, as well as interest rates. So that was their take on what impacts businesses. And we're not talking about just big business. We're talking about all of us here in Lafayette. These things impact our business. So I have another great article from Harvard Business Review. It's called Accelerate. And what this speaks to is the fact that we live in an environment today where there's a challenge to stay competitive amidst constant turbulence and disruption. So if you think about that, disruption is a buzzword. If you read anything about business, you will know that word, disruption. So it's about doing something that is completely different than what was done before. Think of Uber. If I were a Paris taxi cab driver today, I'm really upset with Uber, right? Because they completely changed the landscape. That happens to businesses. That is happening a lot. People are very innovative, and we like that, and they're disrupted the traditional way of doing things. Another part of this article was strategic agility. This man defined it as the ability to capitalize on opportunities and dodge threats with speed and assurance. So you need to, in this environment, since the rate of change is exponential, you need to be able to react quickly. But you need to be able to react with the assurance that you're making the right decision to begin with. So that is our challenge. So to kind of recap what we talked about, you've got the fact that we are entrepreneurs. We tend to shoot from the hip. We have the fact that we're on a roller coaster ride, and even though we're more diversified, that won't go away. We have the fact that we have global influence on our businesses here in Acadiana, as well as the acceleration of change. Change continues to accelerate. So what do you do? What is a positive trajectory? Well, this is what we want to be. This is, I'm stealing an idea from Nancy Duarte. If you Google this woman, she's really incredible. She does a lot of presentations, and she's a really good business thinker. So she talks about the fact that you start a business, you grow your business, and it matures. And then at some point, it begins to decline because you've got competitors, things change in the marketplace, and that is the time to reinvent yourself so that you continue, you have a new product, you have a new method, and so you reinvent yourself and you ride that curve up again and you repeat that. So this is a healthy trajectory. And a good example of that is Amazon. So Amazon, I'm gonna need a sip of water real quick. Right here. Amazon is a great example of this. If you think about it, 1994, the internet is a baby, and Amazon comes to the scene, and they are selling books, DVDs, and CDs online. Remember DVDs and CDs? So they really bust the whole book-selling business wide open. In fact, so much that Barnes & Noble sues them and says, well, you're claiming to be the biggest bookseller in the world, and that's not true. Walmart sues them because they were taking some of the executives, some of the brain power from Walmart over to Amazon to build their business. They settled both of those out of court, and of course they continued to do well. So they rode that first curve. Now they're saying, okay, we can do more, so we can sell more than just books. Why just books? So let's do something different. So they reinvented themselves. And they began to sell everything online, e-commerce, right? They were the first e-commerce business. Really an amazing story. And so eBay came on a little bit after that. They were the second. And so they're on that second curve. And because they are doing things online, they're in the cloud, they've got infrastructure, they have technology, they have technical expertise to be able to support the cloud. So they say, okay, well, we can do something completely different than this. Why don't we sell our cloud services to other businesses? So Amazon Web Services was born, and now they're one of the biggest providers of cloud services in the world. So this is an inspiring story, isn't it? A great American story. Can we do this? Yes, we can do this. This is what we need to aspire to be. And so you're going to ask, I want to ask you a question. When you're making choices in your business, how are you doing it? Are you making it based on gut? Are you making it based on instinct? And many of us do that. And sometimes our gut is really good, but I will tell you that I believe making decisions based on data is much more powerful, much more accurate. So how do you do that? Well, the title of this is The Hidden Value in Information. So what you want to do is unleash the power of your information in your business. And the way that, and in order, when you do that, what you'll do is monetize your data. So that sounds kind of funny. Monetize is a word whose root is money. And if you think of monetizing an asset, what that means in the typical financial sense is to sell an asset for cash, right? Selling real estate if you're a business, or selling something. You can also monetize data, which would be selling data, which a lot of people unfortunately do with their mailing and email lists, because we all are recipients of a lot of that kind of stuff. But monetizing your data in the sense that I'm thinking of is taking a look at your data and using it to improve your business, to improve your cash flow. So when you monetize your business, what you're doing is looking for opportunities to do things in a better way, to improve your revenue or reduce your expenses. And I'll give you an example because I know it's an abstract concept. If you're in a business of selling products and you have inventory, well, it's always, the question is, how much inventory do I buy in anticipation of sales? You know, so you don't want to overbuy because you've got a lot of cash at an inventory, versus I want to make sure I have product when somebody wants it. So how do you make those decisions? Those are almost daily decisions that anyone who sells product needs to make. Well, the way that you do that is by constantly analyzing what is happening, right? What sales do you see? What opportunities are in your pipeline? Right? What do the various warehouses have? Some predictive analysis. Linda, I think, is going to talk a little bit about predictive analysis. So where do we think this is going to go? Are there seasonal changes to what we do? So maybe in the fall, I don't need as much product as I need in winter. So those are the kinds of things that you can do to monetize your data. So before you even do that, you need to make sure that the data is worthwhile. It's called data integrity. So you don't want to just say, okay, I'm going to start building all these analytical tools and I'm going to do these really neat graphs and figure it all out. What you want to do is make sure that your data is of value, that it's the building block, it's the basis for making decisions. Once you have that, then you can have the analytical tools and skills, which my two co-presenters will talk to you about, to apply to that data. Once you have that, good interpretation, and then finally the decision that you make. So I'm going to speak first to data integrity. And the first question is your data valid? Can you trust it? Well, what does that mean? I'll give you some examples of not having valid data, and I see this a lot. Duplicative data, contacts in your system more than one time, data that's incomplete, data that's inconsistent. I see this a lot when I do some implementations of software, and a lot of times I will see, when I'm migrating data from an old system to a new one, the data in the old system is really not very good. So we spend a lot of time cleaning that data up, eliminating duplications, adding data in where you need it. And so people, if you're in business and you have information, you need to start asking yourself questions about, what is the state of my data? Sometimes it's non-existent. Sometimes you're not capturing what you need. So let's say you started your business and it was very simple. It was just you and a couple of buddies, and you have a very simple chart of accounts that you use to provide financial statements. But then things get better. And so you start adding products and you're doing more things, and your old way of looking at your financial statements is just as invalid. Maybe now you have departments and you want to run profit and loss statements by department. But without the data, you cannot do that. So that's an example of not having the data. Another one that is interesting is iPhones. So your sales people, they have their contacts on their iPhone, or maybe it's even the company's iPhone. Well, do you have access to that? What happens if that person walks out the door? Are you going to be able to know who all your prospects really are? That data doesn't exist for you. That data exists for the person. So that's an example of thinking about, do I really have access to everything that I need to run my business? Sometimes data is just plain wrong. Inventory is a very good example of this. I've been engaged with a couple of companies within the last year and a half with the initial reason it was to look at their data and inventory, because they knew there was something wrong with it. They knew it was wrong. So, in inventory, you want to know, what do you have on hand? What's been committed to sales, right? So what's available? What's on order? This in inventory, it can be very difficult to do, to make it valid. And I'll give you an example of what I saw. with one client, and that was their process was broken. So what was happening is that the sales team was very ambitious, and they would go out and they'd make sales, and they would deal with the client, and they would have the product delivered even before customer service knew that there was a sale. Customer service sometimes didn't even know there was a sale till the product was already delivered to the customer. So there's no way you can keep these numbers straight, right? So the root cause of issues like this can be difficult to get to. So in this case, it was a process issue. The next question you need to ask yourself about data integrity is it accessible? So again, is it on an iPhone, on someone's, a salesperson's iPhone? Is it scattered around in different silos, is what I call these. So this is meant to look confusing. I'm not going to explain it to you, but this is an example of a company that's grown, and they've purchased different systems, and they try to put things together, and it's very difficult to have good data under these circumstances. I'm going to give you an example of that. I was CIO at a fairly large company towards the end of the 90s, and they had about 2,000 employees. And so I spent the first couple of months just going down into that data center to figure out what they had, because there were silo after silo, meaning there were computer systems on different platforms and different data models all over the place. And in the middle of it was this big interface engine, which was supposed to direct traffic, right, to keep the data good. And of course, the data was horrible. It was in horrible condition. So that it's not unusual. So what's the answer to that? There are a couple of ways you can fix that. One is to integrate the data into one or fewer than the number of models that you have. So integration into a single data model is one way to do it, which is what we did at this particular company. Another is something that Sonia's going to talk about, is using analytics tools that can pull data from different places, pull it together, have it clean so that you can actually make some decisions based on that. So that's accessibility. So the next thing is, what are you looking at? What is relevant to your business? There are a lot of things that you could do. So there are a lot of questions that you could ask. What's important in your business is what you need to decide. So what are my pain points? Talk to your staff and ask, what would make your work easier? Think about what really drives your success. Is it, making sure that the salespeople are all doing everything that they need to do and selling product? Is it that you want to understand why you're losing customers? Maybe you have a customer retention problem. So those are your pain points, and those should be the things that you want to know. So there is a term called KPI. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's Key Performance Indicator. And that is a lot of times what people will use, put on their dashboards as they're building their analytics. If you were to Google KPI, Key Performance Indicator, you would find there are thousands of them. So what's a mother to do? How do you choose? Well, that's probably the most difficult part of this, is figuring out what are the appropriate questions to ask. And so it takes digging into your business, it takes talking to your staff, talking to people that you rely on outside of your business who provide you with advice, so that you can really hone in on what indicators you need to be taking a look at. And then finally, is it clear? Is what you're looking at something you can understand? What I see a lot, a long, long time ago, I taught Excel. Everybody loves Excel, right? Well, I was teaching it when it first came out. So I remember standing up there at USL in business and industry training and talking about, you have all these columns and all these rows, and I would tell people, imagine this enormous piece of paper. Well, we love Excel so much that we build these enormous things. We've got a spreadsheet of numbers. What can you get out of that? Can you derive anything from that? Can you compare information? Can you see trends in numbers? No. The picture is worth 1,000 words, right? We say that a lot. I say an image is worth 1,000 numbers. It's visualization. It's exactly what these ladies who are experts in the field they're going to talk to you about, you want to visualize your data. You want to take that information, make sure it's clean, make sure you have data integrity, make sure you're pulling it from the right places, and create something that not only looks beautiful, but is very functional. Because what this then can tell you, for instance, that first one is you're looking at something that's trending. So you can do trending analysis and see how things are progressing, see what's rising, what's falling, and then dig into it and find out, why is this happening? You can see the bar graph with the line graph. A lot of times that can be used to show, the bar graph might be my sales, and then the line graph might be comparing the sales from 3 weeks ago. So you can do that kind of comparison. That donut chart is pretty cool too, because then you can compare things like sales by salesperson. So you can see really quickly who your top performer is. Or sales by product. So you can see very quickly what your top product is. So visualization is the key. And that is the best way to do quick analysis, because remember what we said from the beginning, that's in this environment, you need to be able to make good decisions quickly. So this is the best way to do it. So I'm going to go back to how do you make decisions. I'm obviously campaigning for decisions based on data. And back to this triangle. So where I've taken you so far is to talk about data integrity. And so the next step is to talk about some of the tools that are available to you. And you would be surprised that some of these tools are not that expensive. You don't need to be a Fortune 500 company to be able to afford some of these things. So we're going to have two speakers. Linda Ore is my partner, and she has been in information technology almost as long as I have been. She was in Manhattan for a long time, 17 years. She worked for large companies like AIG, has done a lot of work with analytics. She's moved home. I'm very pleased that she's back in Acadiana with us, and so Linda is going to take it away. You're welcome. Yeah. I think I need to do this to you. This is yours. All right. So, what she's provided for you all is some analytics within Salesforce. So, Salesforce is a tool that she and I deploy, and these are some sample analytics that you can get directly out of that product. So, Linda?
All right, thank you, Ann. So using a visualization tool is the best way to get a picture of the current status of your company and see some things that you might not see or know without looking at the visuals or looking at the details behind that data. So as Ann mentioned, we're using Salesforce as a platform. Sure, thank you. Is it on?
That is, but that's not, this is.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. So let's take a look at the charts we have up here. So this is the dashboard we created. We created this pretty quickly in just a couple of hours, couple of days, thought about some things that we wanted to reveal, answer some questions. This is all about answering the questions you have about your business. So when you look at these charts, so this is our dashboard.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Can't hear you.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you probably have some expectations going into your dashboard about your business and what you think you might see. So when you look at these charts, is there anything that pops out at you? Is there anything that it reveals? Did you expect to see something that you don't see here?
I don't see technology on the chart.
Okay. It's a good point. Is there anything else that you don't see that you expected to see? And just to give you a little context, this is a fictitious local company selling office products. I assume that most entrepreneurs here are selling a product or a service. So I kept that in mind, and this is the one Acadiana region. So it's local, it's within the region. I'm selling office products, a few different categories, and
I don't see oil and gas either.
okay, very good, thank you.
What the product is.
Okay.
The size of the company.
Right, right, you don't. Those are not immediately visible.
See who's selling.
You don't see who's selling it. Good. It's a really top-level executive view of what my company has and represents. This could be you know, you can look at it from a manager's perspective, a sales manager. And you know, when I think about owning a company, running a company, there are a lot of questions that come to my mind instantly. So one of them is, which industries are giving me the business? And how much business am I getting from each one of those industries? So we have banking, food and beverage, hospitality. You know, if you look behind this at the accounts, there are no oil and gas companies in here. There may be a reason for that. Maybe I'm not targeting them. Maybe my business doesn't really go to those companies for the business. Maybe they're getting it from somewhere else. I have finance, professional services. If you look at the chart here, professional services is where I'm getting the largest amount of my business. That's where I'm getting the big business. And if you drill down into it, I may have a much larger number of opportunities for the food and beverage industry, but in total sum, that's a smaller piece of my business because I have smaller opportunities associated with that particular industry. And because I'm covering a region, I want to know which cities are giving me the business. So you can see across here, I have 6 different cities, larger, smaller. What would you expect to see if you were a Lafayette business owner? Lafayette is your largest column, but it's not. So if we drill down into that, we would see that we have a lot of opportunities there, or larger opportunities within the Crowley area. Maybe I have a salesperson with some great relationships there, and they're bringing me some really good business. And that's what this allows me to see. It's interactive. You can drill down into this. It's not a static report. It's real time. You can refresh it at any moment, any time. Takes a couple of seconds, and see what's behind these numbers. Why would I have zip code up there?
Further define smaller entities.
Yes. That's for micro segmentation. So if I have a product or a service that I can sell to new communities, new areas, new neighborhoods, maybe I really want to target a smaller segment of the population. I might want to group a few zip codes together, maybe 1 or 2, and really go after those new areas. And that gives me a better ROI for my advertising expense. In the bottom left chart, you can see the sales pipeline by stage and product type. So that tells me my sales process, where everything is, and how it's stacked by my product type. So you can see I have some larger areas. I have office furniture in the negotiation phase. And that's a larger piece of my business. So I can go in, talk to my salesperson who's associated with that particular opportunity, see about bringing that in, closing the business. I have an open pipeline for the next 90 days. I can see all of the opportunities associated with that particular chart. I have some in the needs analysis phase, some in the proposal stage, and some in negotiation. My largest amount is in negotiation. That ties back to what we talked about earlier, and that way I can just talk to those salespeople. I can look at that piece of business and see how I can get that to close and bring in more revenue. If I'm losing business, then I want to look at why I'm losing that business. Is my pricing where it should be? Do I need to be more competitive with my pricing? Am I losing to better quality products? Maybe someone got a better quality product for the same price. Or perhaps I can't deliver as fast as one of my competitors. Maybe I need to look at that. Maybe I need another source for my products. Maybe I need to make some adjustments. Maybe I need to reallocate my resources, put people in different areas, cover different territories, expand to a new geographical area. We heard a really good case from Butch Darcy the other day at the luncheon. He has a global business, a catering business in different countries. He's learned a lot of lessons about what it's like to do business in other countries. That's something else you want to do. You want to look at your risk and think about what it takes to do business in other areas. Are there any questions about what you see here? Yes?
What's the difference between the donut-like diagram and the pie chart? Why would you prefer one over the other?
There's not a huge difference. That's something that I looked at. This is one of the different types of charts that you can pull out of Salesforce. There are a number of canned reports, and you can customize these any way you like. So it's however you want to represent the data, what makes sense to you as a piece of your total business. And I'll show you, I just want to go into one of these so you can see the interactive piece. So if we click on this report, we see the report, and then we see the account names, and we see all of the opportunities associated with this particular report. So I can see the size, I can see who the salesperson is, I can look at what stage of the process they're in, and then I can make informed decisions about my business. Do I need to change my product mix? Do I need to reassign my territories to my salespeople? Do I need to make some other kind of change in how I'm doing my business? All keeping in mind what is impacting my business and how it might impact my business. So earlier, going back to our chart, we said we didn't see the oil and gas industry, and we didn't see technology. So what you'll see over time is a shift from one industry to another. You'll see a new industry pop up. That's an opportunity for you. One may shrink, but one may grow. That's an opportunity. Business is cyclical. You'll have new entrants into the market. You may have new competitors. All of those things need to be considered. And all of those help inform you to make a better decision about how to change your business and how to adjust to the marketplace. So this is just an example of a dashboard. You can decide what are the questions you want answered for your business, and then develop those and customize them to meet your particular business needs. Yes?
I know that the tool you're using is related to the Salesforce application. Are there other, like say, applications similar to do these dashboards, to do these the visual presentation of data that's independent of an application that can be put on top of any data set?
Yes, and that's a great question. So here's a chart from Gartner. Gartner's a research firm that does an in-depth study of the features and functionality of visualization tools and publishes it annually. So you see the 4 quadrants here. This is their magic quadrant. On the x-axis, we have completeness of vision of the company, and on the y-axis, ability to execute. I'm just going to focus on the leaders quadrant for a minute. Tableau, you can see, is up there at the top. Tableau you can download for free. They started giving it away for free, the desktop version, not too long ago. If you want to go to the server version or you want to publish your reports,
We can't hear you over here.
if you want to publish your reports, then there is a cost associated with that. You also have some other major vendors here like IBM and Microsoft, SAS, SAP. SAS has been in the industry for a really long time, like 30-something years, a lot of analytic tools, can do some really great stuff. Tibco software, that's in the bottom right quadrant. They have a product called Spotfire. It has a really nice lasso feature where you can group some items in your dashboard and then drill down into the details of what that shows you. Burst is an up-and-comer. It's a challenger in the space, and it has a secret sauce where it does some of the relationships for you up front before you customize and develop your dashboards. But there are a lot of nice tools that you can get here and try out. You can download them for free. ClickView from Click, Tableau, a number of these. The Spotfire also, you can download all of those for free. The desktop version and try them out. Any other questions?
I missed the scope. What's the scope of analysis here? These are firms in which category?
These are all visualization tools.
Data visualization.
Visualization vendors with visualization tools. Questions, comments? All right. So we went from the very simple business analysis, considering that you might be an entrepreneur and you might not have years and years of data. But of course, there are much more complex things you can do and more sophisticated tools that you can use. So Dr. Sonia Shi from UL is going to show us what you can do with one of those tools.
Thank you. It's okay. I'm going to show. All right. Before I start, I hope you can hear me. I'm actually have a professor voice. I usually, walk around in the classroom. This is my voice. I just want to go back to, echoing what Anne was talking about, this triangle here. Basically, we need to actually, spend, if we're probably going to spend a whole data analytics project, and probably spend like 80% of the time try to clean up the data, find the data, or actually figure out if this is data actually have integrity. We're talking about is inaccuracy, or we're talking about maybe it's not appropriate, or it's not the measurement we have, or without the dimension, we try to actually clear up. So basically, you need to clean up the data. That is really taking more than the visualization. So what I'm going to show you in a minute here, the BI tools that Linda was talking about, is really kind of combine the analytic tools and skill interpretation in one task. So we can actually provide some visualization which is really easy to understand, easy to implement, and we can make the decision faster than before. And that is really something that we're trying to do. Hopefully it will show up. Okay, basically, earlier one lady was talking about asking the question if there is anything that we can actually provide, like Tableau is free, you can download, and it's a little bit more like the implementation side. Okay, this is the SAP predictive analysis. So basically, they provide a little bit more dimensions. So you have a measurement, you have the dimension you can actually choose from, or variation of it. So this is something just really orient you a little bit. You do have a choice of making the different, manipulate your data a little bit. Okay, so this is what this can be with the animations. So easily you can see different product in different continent of the world that what is the situation gonna be. So this is, of course, you can actually, this is really kind of quickly put together, but again, you can actually put it in such a way, provide some meaningful and useful visualization for your business decisions. So this is the point. So you know there is something out there. Of course, you can actually get free version of this one. I think it's called saplumira.com. So something like that is really kind of look probably similar to Tableau, but a little bit more analytic in such a way. So now is a little bit not so so much visualization, but again, it's kind of streamline the business model. This is something I want to put it out here. We all know customer loyalty, right? You want to retain your current customer, then going out there, spending all your money, recruit the new sales. So basically return the current customer is really kind of a more driving your profit for your company. So basically this is really kind of something that I want to show you what this program can do. It's called predictive analytics. So basically what I'm trying to do in the flow right here is we try to establish, using your existing data, establish the model, which come up with a decision tree. You can manipulate what you want to actually drive your result is. And then when you have a new data, save this model of course, when you have a new data, apply to this data you have established with the existing customer. So basically, when you have this model, you have the new customer, you would soon know this, within this category I defined, those XYZ would be my person to, hopefully retain in the service, providing the service for a very long time. So this is really something that I want to go through. Basically, we'll apply the existing model. So you will have this data like that. And of course, this data, you can actually be very extensive, few terabytes or whatnot kind of situation. In this case, we have probably around 2,000 in this data. So you know that we want to establish what we can actually see in this data model. And I need to make sure this is actually generate the analysis. So I can display very soon. For example, can you tell what is this graph telling you? We have several different variables put into this data model. We have number of savings accounts, salary, marital, and checking account, number of checking account you have, and the region. So basically, the most influence this data probably is the number of the savings account. Why you have several different savings account? Because you probably have a little bit of money and you understand what is this bank service. Everybody have bank service. So that's why I use this model. So you know, when you actually click through, what is your guessing? What does this tell you? Basically, with one savings account, you are more likely to be the loyal customer in the bank service. In this case, if you have two possibility, if you have a zero, you do not have savings account, you move a lot. You shop a lot of the bank service. So basically, number 3 is equivalent. You have a lot of money, a lot of savings account, guess what? I don't need to stick to the same bank. So basically, the one with only one savings account actually would be the loyal customer. And you need to grab them before they leave for the next bank service they shop for. So, and then I want to show you how you build your model. In this case, you can see what you can tell from here. Hopefully you can see in the back. Basically, the same echoing what we were talking about earlier, right here is really 81% of the customer, thank you, and my student is raising the car and I told him not to. By the way, we have to thank our volunteers who do very diligent work. Thank you. So he is the only freshman. That is very impressive, right? so basically, you can tell from this model that more than 80% of a person probably is the one and with only one savings account. So this is the same thing we're talking about, and just show you what you can do here. You can actually add, I think I'm going to do adding the marital status. You can actually see probably not so much difference because it's more like 20% and 80% in this regard, right? So if I actually add the, very surprisingly, if you don't have a savings account, guess what? The single people would be the person you recruit for your retained customer than the married couple. So this is really kind of show you this is what you actually define in the data model, and then you save this model, and then when you have a new data coming in, you can apply to this model, and guess what? You have a list of the customer you would like to retain. And this is a whole predictive analytics about. So setting the model to predict what is next for your business. I don't know, you have any questions, or we're going to save the questions for the next, because my student raised another time card for me. So I guess we're going to turn the floor back to Anne. Before that, may I do a little bit of advertisement? I'm actually from School of Computing and Informatics. We do actually take on a lot of the class projects. I'm actually teaching the capstone class, project management. So, and then of course, each project team, we dedicated 100 working hours for each project for the local businesses. So, look me up. I do have my business card with me. So, if you would like to have initiative for your data analytics or any implementations, my student is very capable. Look at that, Mr. Evan. So basically, we know about database, we know about networking, we do know a lot about ERP. So basically, if you have any similar project, scale down a little bit, we can actually finish in 100 working hour, then let me know. We'll make a contact with me, and then we can see if we can help out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sonia's program is very close to my heart. It's the Business Informatics program over at UL. It's fairly new. The name of my company is Business Informatics Group. It's an interesting combination. Traditional, we've had a great computer science department here at USL for a very long time. I say USL. That's what it was when I graduated. But you have computer engineering, the hardware part. You have computer software, right? Those are the two traditional things that students could go into. Kind of in the middle is this business informatics, where the students not only learn the technical aspects of it, they understand project management, they understand process and how to improve process. So it's really a lot closer to the business. So I'm very excited about this program, and I hope one day to have a master's, and they have a bachelor's today. So I was very glad that Sonia agreed to do this. She's a very busy woman on campus. So, so to wrap up, I think, you know, it was interesting for you all to, yes.
I broke the computer.
Oh no.
Sorry.
How did you do that?
Well, it's not coming out, so I'm sorry.
But you're the computer lady.
I know, exactly. Sorry, I broke the computer. Do not record that.
So at any rate, so just to wrap up, I'm hoping that you got something out of this to understand what it takes to make really good business decisions. Right now, our economy is a little bit weird, so this is the time to really think about what you need to do to survive. This is also not a bad time to start a new business. Like my friend Renee is starting 2 new businesses as we speak. And so you can, we started our businesses back in 1984 as the slump began. And it really was a good experience for my husband and I. He's a geologist. Oh, thank you. He found it. He's a geologist, and I was in IT. And so you can make a go, even though the economy is kind of strange, but you have to do it intelligently, right? So you need to start with the bases and then look to some of these analytical tools. Yes, sir. Rich?
I'm not going to ask you a question, I thought you were going to ask.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say, if you wanted to contact any of us, feel free to do that. Some of the business cards are in the back. So, Rich?
My question has to do with, again, being older. We used to use the 80-20 rule, and that was that 80% of your business came from 20% of your products, and 20% of your products also cost you 80%.
Right.
And so it seems to me that this is a polishing up of that, and the reason we've lost it has to do with 2 things. One, too much information, not too little, too much information. That's why you need an image. You need an image because you have so much information. And the second reason is because we don't reinvent ourselves. So when you look at a business and you break it down into the 80-20, you realize what you're strong at. So you start to get rid of the things that you're weak at. And so the 80%. So that was the old rule, like back before computers. So it shows how old I am. And so I'm wondering now that you see this, shouldn't the first step be to take that 80-20 into account before you start any of this, before you do any of it? Because that means you're dragging along 20% of the garbage that is not part of or maybe 80% of the garbage
I think
that you really don't need.
I get your point. I think it's a great point. But I think in order to do it, you still need the data. You still need the ability to figure out what's 80%, what's 20%. Right? I think that is a key question. I think that is, when we're talking about relevancy and what do you need to look at, that's probably a good basic question for everyone. Is, I need to take a look at what my top sellers are, what they're costing me, and make that analysis.
Right,
So
because
absolutely.
you can't reinvent yourself until
Until
you
you
know
know
that 20%.
Exactly.
You can't.
Right, right.
Those little bumps you showed, you're going downhill when you're dragging that 80%
Exactly.
with you.
Right. Yes.
And that's what
I
I'm
would actually say
saying.
something different. Not quite in agreement with Rich, but, a lot of the companies like Amazon.com, what they're trying to do is reach out to what they call the long tail. And the long tail really means that, these are, books, for example, that not many people buy, but still, if you can find the person who's interested in that area or that topic, there's still money to be made, with those tail end. So there's a lot of work being done in terms of not only focusing on what sells a lot, but also focusing on, all the other things that may not sell a lot, but still there's money to be made over there.
Right, right. Higher profitability, good customers. That's what we were getting to earlier. Maybe you want to choose your customers. Maybe you want to look at what the higher profitability customers are. And a repeat customer is a lot less expensive than bringing in a new customer.
But if you're selling something, even if it's got a very high, you look at return, but it's costing you so much to get there.
Right.
You got one
Right.
salesman that makes $1,000 sale, and you have to pay him. The perfect example of this is the U.S. Post Office. I don't know if anybody understands this, but the average income for the year of a U.S. Post Office is about $24,000. That's the profit. Meanwhile, you go over to the post office, you tell me how many employees are in there and what they get paid.
I think
That's why it
one more
sucks up
question over here.
$6 billion a year.
Let me take
I
a
think-
conversation.
Let me kind of dovetail what Rich has to say. Basically, I think what you need is actually fresh eye to look at what is going on with your business. I think that is probably something that you will need sometimes.
Oh, no, I'm saying this is good. What you're doing.
Right, you need to look at the
I'm not
total
disagreeing.
picture.
Yes.
What you're
Look at
doing,
the
I think,
bottom
is
line,
right.
but
That's where
then
you start.
What makes us that bottom line? What are all the different
I'm
pieces?
going to take this
in
question
that?
over here. Okay, yes, sir, your question.
So, I mean, with the, say just with the Salesforce data set, how broad of information can you take in? Like, my family's business is seasonal oriented, and so water levels at different locations can affect the business.
Right.
Seasonal temperatures, rain, everything is such as that.
Right.
Can you incorporate that into the data analysis?
You can with different products. Salesforce is actually a development platform, so you can develop different objects that could support that kind of data capture and analytics. Right? Yeah, but if it's contained within another, thank you for explaining. Oh, 0. Okay, sorry. So if it's contained within
No, that's
existing
fine.
systems, it's the analytical tools that you can look to pull that data out. Thank you all for being here bright and early on Saturday morning.